Hi, welcome to the channel, or welcome back if that's the case. It's been a while since I've done a demo type video. The first one, I guess the only one I've done so far, was about the Akai MPC 1000, and in that video I asked the question as to whether or not the Akai MPC 1000 is perhaps the best hardware DAW or digital audio workstation. I'll try to link that video either below in the description, or if I can figure out how to do one of those card things at the top of the video, I'll do it there. But that might be useful just to kind of get some context in terms of the power of the MPC 1000. Now, what has always kind of been a concern for me regarding the MPC 1000 is that it's not so big, but it's not quite portable either. I mean, sure, you can pack it in a bag and a backpack or something and get going like that, but if you really truly want to be portable in terms of powering it up and having a really portable workflow, there's a little bit of a challenge, because of course, you know, you're dealing with this AC adapter cord here, and that's not very forgiving in terms of the options available to you. Now, what the central focus of this video is about truly using the MPC 1000 in a kind of a portable way. Excuse me for having to refresh my iPad screen, but a truly portable way as a MIDI controller. And we're going to use it as a MIDI controller for the Intuos Beatmaker 3 app on the iPad. That's why I have the iPad there in the back. And the way we're going to do this is that we're not going to use an audio MIDI interface. We're going to use this, which is a Yamaha Bluetooth MIDI transmitter. And we're not going to power the Akai MPC 1000 using mains outlet power. We're going to use this, which is a power bank that works pretty well. Let you see a bit more in terms of the name of the power bank. I'll try to link this below. So let's see about getting things hooked up now. The first thing that I'm going to do is to attach this Yamaha transmitter. I'm going to attach the ins and outs to a pair of ins and outs on the Akai MPC 1000. Now, this transmitter doesn't have to be powered up. It derives its power from the power of the MPC 1000 itself when it's powered up. Okay, so now we're going to power up the Akai MPC 1000. I'll just plug this in here. This is the reason why I got this particular power bank, because it can power up devices that use an AC power cord. So I'm going to press the power button. It's down to 18% just because I've been using it so much and I haven't bothered to recharge it. But that's going to be more than enough for what we're doing here today. This thing can last for hours. I think 6 hours, 8 hours, people have mentioned at a time. I'm going to press this. Oops, come back here. Press this for mains power. Okay, so one button is for the unit's power. The other button is just to turn on the mains power option. And now I'll turn on the MPC 1000, and you see it's powering up. The JJOS alternate firmware, by the way, which is pretty much the only way to go if you have one of these beautiful machines. And I get into a bit more of that in that other video that I mentioned, in which I made the case that perhaps the Akai MPC 1000 is the best hardware door. Anyway, while this is loading up, let's get started here with the iPad. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to settings, go to Bluetooth, turn Bluetooth on. Okay, now here's the thing. I have some Bluetooth devices indicated here, and these are devices that I've previously paired with my iPad, but the Yamaha MIDI transmitter is not going to show up here. What you're going to need is an app like this called Midi Meter. Okay, Midi Meter kind of acts as a bridge between, I guess you could say, your iPad's Bluetooth setting and any of your Bluetooth capable apps. Okay, so this is the main screen for Midi Meter, and if we go to devices here at the bottom, I don't know if you can see that, you're going to see the reference right there to the Yamaha MIDI transmitter. Okay, now we are not concerned with this. We just want to leave Midi Meter open. So we're going to leave that open. I'm going to pull up Beatmaker 3. I'm going to open my template session, in which I already have a number of kits loaded. All right, and we're going to go to the gear icon here, and the first screen you're going to see is going to be the audio and MIDI devices screen. In order to get the Yamaha MIDI transmitter recognized by Beatmaker 3, we're going to click this Bluetooth button here in the top right. Okay, there we see our transmitter, our MIDI transmitter indicated. It's not connected. We're going to press to connect it. Boom. You may have noticed in the background that it's been added here as an available device. Okay, so now we can see, for example, in both the ins and the outs, that we've got our Yamaha MIDI transmitter. Okay, so now we can see available in both the MIDI in and MIDI output device list our Yamaha MIDI transmitter. Okay, in each case you can select sync. We're not going to go through that today. That's going to be limited in terms of what we can do with this setup, but I just want to show you how we can do some basic control, especially pad control, using the MPC wirelessly. Okay, so we have that set up. Now we're not going to be able to jump in and just start banging away on the MPC pads to control Beatmaker 3. I mean, you could start doing this, okay? And notice that I have this screen here for this bank set up in 64 pad mode, okay? So we could start banging away. I think we might have to select for our MIDI setup here. Okay, so you can hear the sounds now that we have selected the Yamaha Bluetooth transmitter, the MIDI transmitter. Okay, and I'll just turn this up on the iPad just so you can hear this a bit more. Now, if you look at how that about, you know, when I'm hitting these pads here on the MPC and the reaction here in the Beatmaker 3 app, you can see that there's basically like no lag, no latency whatsoever. Okay, let me put down the iPad just to make this more apparent. Okay, so if I'm banging out here, okay, watch this. Okay, or okay, now here's something that you may have noticed. When we hit this pad here, I don't know if you can see which pad is being triggered. It's this one over here. So what happened to all of these other pads here? I mean, after all, we are on bank A, which is the first of the 4 pad banks on the MPC 1000. So that's the first pad bank. We should be seeing, when we hit this pad, should be triggering this one on Beatmaker 3, right? Well, here's the problem. The problem is that because of the note assignments that are stored in the MPC, they don't necessarily align automatically with the Beatmaker 3 app. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to work through these bindings off camera, because after all there's 64 of them to make. I don't want to prolong this video, but before I do, I'll show you a nifty little trick that we can do to kind of speed this along. We can hit auto learn down here so that the parameter field for the first part assignment starts blinking. You hit that on the MPC, and then Beatmaker 3 automatically moves on to the next pad. You hit the second pad on the MPC, and so on the third, and it keeps going on. Okay, so I'm going to work through like that with all of these 16 pads in pad bank A. Then I'm going to select pad bank B, do the same thing until we have all 64 pads of the MPC 1000 assigned to the 64 pad slots here in Beatmaker 3. So now that I've gone through and I've fully mapped, or I should say I've bound, since the Beatmaker 3 app refers to these assignments as bindings, I've bound all of the 64 pad assignments on the Akai MPC 1000 to the 64 available assignments in the first bank that I showed you earlier. Now that I've done that, I should be able to come out of settings and play with these MPC pads and see what happens on the screen here. So I'm going to put my iPad over there, okay, and I'm going to bang away on my MPC, and let's see what happens. I'll turn this up. I'm not running this through an interface for this purpose today, so we'll just do as well as we can with the sound coming from the iPad. So, you know, this might seem like a lot of trouble to go through, um, to do this, to control an iPad wirelessly from an MPC 1000. And I have to admit, it is a bit of a kind of proof of concept. But the thing about it is that this actually feels really good. I mean, this is highly responsive. I'm getting no lag. I mean, zero lag whatsoever. As soon as I touch, I'm hearing the sound from the iPad. Okay, and to be honest, it seems to me to be less of a lag than sometimes when I'm using a MIDI controller actually connected directly to the iPad. Okay. I mean, if you hear that, I'm doing rolls, note repeat rolls, easily and fluidly from the MPC. No note repeat being used here, but I'm just doing it with my fingers, and it sounds quick and responsive. Like no lag whatsoever. When I'm going through, and you can see that as I change up the pad bank assignments on the MPC, 16 new sounds can be accessed from the MPC's pads. Now, there are some limitations. I mean, I had tried, I have to admit previously, to map or bind the MPC's transport controls to Beatmaker 3. I was able to bind one of these transport controls at a time. So for example, I was able to bind like the play, one of the play buttons, but when I would try to bind another one of these transport controls, the control that the second control I tried to bind would supersede the first. So the first binding would disappear and only the second binding would then show up. Now, what did happen was that when I bound one of these play buttons to Beatmaker 3, and I played it, even though I hadn't assigned the stop button, I was still able to stop Beatmaker 3 from the MPC by pressing the stop button on the MPC. Let me see if I can just maybe quickly set this up again so that you can see more clearly what I mean. Just give me a second. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bind this play start button here. Yeah, transport play, sorry, to the play start button on the MPC. Okay, it's done that. Okay, and you can hear that Beatmaker 3 is playing. Now there's a bit of a stuttering going on because there are different tempos and all of that, but let's just ignore that for now. What happens if I press stop? It stops. Okay, so I can save this. I'll overwrite this binding profile Okay, so now I've also included some basic transport functionality using the play button here. Okay, and you can see that the MPC's sequencer is going. All right, I think this is going to be valuable for me because I just frankly like the feel of the MPC pads, and I'm amazed by the responsiveness of this setup. And hey, I've got the battery life to go, and if I'm not using the battery in the studio here, I can just always plug in the MPC into a wall outlet, and I can keep the Yamaha Bluetooth MIDI transmitter in the MPC and still have two 5-pin DIN MIDI connections available that I can use at any time. So I don't even ever have to move the Yamaha Bluetooth MIDI transmitter. It can stay there because I still have MIDI to spare. Okay, so that means that the MPC is always ready and available as a Bluetooth MIDI controller. All right. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Give it a like if you have enjoyed it, and stay tuned for more videos. I have some affiliate links below in the description. Of course, those affiliate links, if you use them, I will receive a small commission. Please note that that commission is at no extra charge to you if you use those links. It's just a matter of convenience that the links are there. They're there in one place so that you can see the gear that I do use or have used, so that you can get an idea of what I've gained value from, okay? And the things that I've found that have worked for me over the years. And hopefully the convenience of them being in one place like that as a list of affiliate links will appeal to you and help you to explore whether or not these are items that might also work for you. Now, if there is something there that's listed that you are interested in, that you would like to see me perhaps do a demo about, by all means, just let me know in the comments and I'll see what I can do. Okay, so yeah, until the next time, stay safe, stay blessed, and I'm out.